Hello everybody, and welcome back once again to another Lutys Chainsaw Mods. Beautiful day out there today. Nice day to blow up a chainsaw. But no, I'm only joking. I've just got some interesting results. I've just done a couple of dyno runs on this. By the way, I'm having a lovely cold beer. Just enjoying myself today. Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, just enjoying myself, doing a bit of dyno testing on mufflers, which I know there's quite a few people that have asked about mufflers. I need to do a quick sort of show you around what I've done to this chainsaw first. Just have a bit of this, just a minute. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so this chainsaw is the one that was revving to 18,500 RPM, okay? And I have done a bit about this on a previous video. It pretty much blew up because the bearings wouldn't take that kind of speed, and they were starting to, the case hardening was going on the bearings, ruined the cylinder, ruined the crankshaft as well, really, because the crankshaft was actually spinning, excuse me, inside the inner bearing, inside the inner bearing race, and it's ruined the crankshaft. The main sort of thing that I found on these Dyno is, because I've done quite a bit of work on these Dyno, Chinese Dyno clones, 58cc chainsaws, and I've found that basically the weak point in them is the fact that the crankshaft is just pressed together, so it's an interference fit on the big end pin that goes into the webs of the crankshaft, and they just press it together. Okay, and I found as I've been getting more and more power out of chainsaws, and this one's always been my most powerful one because it was the last one I've been porting, I'm getting better as I'm doing them. I'm getting more and more increases in power, and what it was basically doing was as instead of the webs just going around like that, because the dyno, it was failing on the dyno basically, and every time I put it on the dyno, put a load of weight on it at full bore, what was happening was it was slipping on the one weight on the pin. It was only about 1 millimeter out, but once that pin has slipped a tiny bit, what it does, it eccentricates the both output shafts from the crankshaft. So then they're like stirring the crankshaft seals and allowing air in. It took me a while to find this issue, and now with this one, what I've done, I've welded the pin in, welded the bottom end pin in. It's a new crankshaft in it. I've also made it a turbo crankshaft, which I've shown on the previous video. So it's a turbo crankshaft. The porting is, I think, the best porting that I've ever done, because you just get better at it, to be fair. The porting is really good on this saw, and you will be surprised with the power outputs I can get out of this now. Now that the crankshaft is much more solid, the crankshaft can take it. So it's got new bearings, new crankshaft, new cylinder, new piston, and bear in mind this is a Chinese Dyno clone. You know, I'm getting the whole lot for probably, I don't know, probably under £50 for the whole lot. Looks like my lights, the light is flickering on this video for some reason, I don't know why. I've had issues with the blinking microphone on this, you'll see on one of the videos I did that the microphone's bloody making a noise all the time. Don't know why it's doing that, unless it doesn't like this light. Maybe there's too much light around here. I might actually just see if I can raise up these legs a little bit, see if I can get you in a better position. So yeah, this saw now it's better than I've ever had it. Okay, it really is. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I'll do a quick little run on the dyno, because as you know, I video all my dynos on this phone, all my dyno runs, because the instrumentation is down here. Although I know I've got a temp sensor on this now, but that's really like just for me to sort of keep my eye on, to be honest. It starts to flash at 120 degrees C it is, but really they should be able to stand these two strokes on the, remember I'm measuring on the midsection of the outside of the cylinder, so we should be looking at around 160 degrees max on that. So even though if it does start flashing, my dyno runs are pretty quick, to be fair, and I don't tend to get it to that temp, and I'm having trouble with the sensor. The sensor seems to be jumping out quite a bit. I might actually see if I can get away with putting a zip clip around the cable, just to see if I can stop it coming out. Okay, so it's got the standard muffler on this at the moment. I'll just do a quick dyno run just to sort of, because I know people are interested in this, they like this dyno, and I need to keep that interest going if I can. I aim to do a lot more. See, I've been messing around with this saw for so long, with the crankshaft big end pin moving all the time. See, it's stable now, my camera. I think you'll find that it seems to be more stable. Anyway, yeah, I've been messing around trying to find this issue, or why it's cutting out and bad starting and all the rest of it, because it was slipping on the pin, you see. It's just took me a while to do it, because obviously I've stripped it down so far, checked everything, stripped it down again, checked everything, and I've been doing that quite a bit. I do enjoy doing this. I mean, it can seem hard work, but at the end of the day, I find it interesting. It's to me, it's like doing a Sudoku, finding issues and problems and what have you. I like it, and sometimes I like to go away with a problem and just have a bit of a think, maybe for a few days, even maybe for a week, just have a bit of a think. And sometimes I'll come up with a little light bulb idea, and I'll go back into it again, and that's how I've ended up finding this crankshaft issue. So I'll just do a quick run for you, just so that this video isn't too boring, and then we'll go from there. So we've got ignition on. I'll put the scale on so I can at least see the torque. Okay, so I've got the scale on. I can at least watch the torque. Now I've got the standard silencer on this. The mini expansion chamber, if you like, the modified silencer is there, but I have got the standard one on this at the moment. see, I'm having trouble with this blinking sensor. I really am. Part of the trouble is I've got it running on a 9-volt battery, and it says, I don't even know if that battery's great, so it looks like it could have a voltage drop. It does actually say that it can run on 8 volts, 8 to 24 volts, and I found an old battery here which I tested, which was 9.03 volts, so it was still good. It may not be now, but it was still good. There you go, I disconnected and reconnected it, tried. I think it's low voltage, that battery, because when I disconnected and reconnected it started to come up with the figures. So anyway, okay, so I mean, it's running really well now, this dyno is. I haven't really had that many problems with it. I had issues with the adjustment coming off on the brake hub, because this is obviously it's a mountain bike brake hub. I mean, you know, I might be talking about stuff that you already know about, because all this has been on my channel for a long time. I have another drink of my beer actually. So what I want to basically talk to you about is the fact that now I've got, okay, so the last time I dyno tested this, before I found the crankshaft issue, it pushed 6.01 horsepower. I did a dyno run after doing a video and it failed on me, so that's when it twisted the crank, but it took me so long to find the problem. But I was running it without an air filter, and the reason was I built these air filters for these chainsaws which bolt straight onto the carburetor. Now I'm getting rid of them now because they're falling apart with the vibration, okay? And now I've actually found a ram stack that I mount on the same mounting as those air filters. I'll just quickly see if I can show you. I'm trying to do this to hopefully so you can see. So there's a, well, let's go the other side. Let's go the other side here. Sorry about that. Lost you then. So see the ram stack? I'm buying these off eBay at the moment. As you can see, there's my standard muffler. That's the one that I did the last dyno test with, and I've just done this one with. I'll put you back up here. Okay, so yeah, I've got a ram stack on it now, as opposed to, I used to just remove the air filter, wire it all up, because I've got a speed sensor down there which takes the pulse from the ignition, and then I've got a weighing scale which weighs at a measured arm length. It measures in pounds-feet. Now a lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, but how do you know that it's right? Well, originally when I was building this, I put known standard chainsaws on here that I'd never messed with, and obviously I knew the horsepower of them. I've got a standard Dyno up there in one of my sheds up there, and that's comes out 3.1 horse, and I measured, no sorry, 3.2 horsepower, and it did come out at 3.1 horsepower on my dyno. So it's pretty close, considering I don't really have I mean, there's no sort of charts or anything, there's no line charts with this. I do a video and I just scroll through the video and I note down the torque and the RPMs, matching them obviously at each stage, and I do a number of them and write them all down on my pad, and then I just work out the horsepower. So it's RPM times torque, which is pounds-feet, and then divide that by 5252, gives it you in horsepower. So it is accurate because I've measured known standard saws and I've set the dyno on so that it will push what they're supposed to push, and I've been able to do that. Okay, I think this saw, like I say, this saw before was 6.01 horsepower before it twisted the crankshaft. I've got one in the shed up there that pushes I think it's 4.95 horsepower. It's more or less 5 horsepower, and that's never twisted the crank, so I'm assuming that must be the limit on these saws. So if you're going to tune one up, be careful. If you get too much power out of them, it will twist the crankshaft. Okay, and then you could do what I do, you know, you're going to have to grind part of it away, because if you just weld it up, it won't fit in the crankcase properly. So you've got to grind back first, then weld it up, build it back up to the standard width, grind it flat, and it'll be sound. I mean, this one it's got about 1 millimetre of weld around the pin, around the big end pin, and it's holding perfectly. And so I'll go through these results now that I've just done before I did this video. I think you'll be really surprised. Okay, so the one on it is standard. The one I built for it, which I've done another video on it. Now you'll see there's a little bit of oil, and well, it's actually fuel and carbon really coming out of this. It's because there's tiny pinholes in it, and the reason is the metal is so thin on these, it's difficult to get a decent sealed weld. Okay, I don't think it's losing much pressure. At the end of the day, that's fuel and carbon. You know, you only need tiniest pinhole for it to start pushing out something like that. Okay, I painted it red, it's made it look worse. Maybe I should paint it black, I don't know. But this is an idea I had a while ago, and as you see, again, if you look back a couple of videos back, I show how I made this, and I can tell you, yes, it definitely works. It changes the power output, I will say, and I'll explain in a minute. This is going to make it a much more usable chainsaw actually. So I'm really happy about this. I've got some heat insulated material around it to try and stop the heat getting into the crankcase, because you don't want to warm up your charge really, because it shrinks your charge, like thins the air down and what have you. So you want that cold as you can, but that's what I did anyway. I put this heat insulated material around it, but it's got so it's got a big outlet here. The original outlets are welded up, big outlet going out, and the whole lot pushes out through there, which is a single outlet. It's got a little bit more room to expand. It's not a true expansion chamber, obviously, but it's got a fair bit of room to expand in. But I've made this slightly bigger than I thought I needed, because I needed it to still flow. It's got a sonic cone just in there. Look, see where that bulbous piece is? That's the sonic cone, which echoes straight into the exhaust port. So that is the pipe that I've run before this standard pipe. Okay, so I'll just go through these results. I must admit, it blew me away a bit. So just give me glasses. Warm today. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Nothing nicer. Being in the workshop, doing a bit of dyno testing. Lovely cold beer, beautiful. Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Right, let's have a look here. Okay, so I've even got the other results, because I was going to do this test when the crankshaft went. Yeah, I've got the original one here. Excuse me. I mean the original one. The best torque was 3.94 at 8,700, which is quite low RPM. And that was 5.827 horse. But the best horsepower was at a lower torque rating. I'm not 100% sure why, whether it's the port timing. It could be the port timing actually, but it's funny because the best reading I had before it twisted the crank, it only pushed 2.896 in torque, pounds-feet, whereas the one I just said, which was 5.82 horsepower, pushed 3.49 pounds-feet, almost 3.5 pounds-feet. Well, the best reading at 6.01 pushed only 2.896 horsepower, but the engine speed was higher. The lower one was 8,760. This higher one was 10,900, almost 11,000 RPM, and it pushed 6.01 when it twisted the crank. But now it's been rebuilt again, as I said. So that was the old. So that the readings I've just given you was from the cylinder and piston that revved up to 18,500 RPM. Okay. To me, I think it's more about speed, because if you do the calculation of torque times speed divided by 5252, obviously if your torque or your speed is higher, which on the other cylinder it would be really high, it will give you more horsepower because it's doing more work. But it doesn't mean the torque's higher. In fact, the torque was lower. It wasn't even 3 horsepower, 3 pounds-feet. So it's one of them things, you know, it depends what you want really. You know, do you want speed? Now I experienced before when it was revving at 18,500 RPM, it was ruining chains, it was ripping chains up, it was bending teeth, breaking teeth off because the chains couldn't keep up with it. So to me it's no good as a chainsaw. No good whatsoever as a chainsaw. So you ideally, I would say, I mean an ideal cutting speed really is around 9.5, 10,000 RPM. If you can get it, if you can get your best torque at that, I think you'll have a really good chainsaw. That's just my opinion, but you know. Okay, so back to today. Okay, so with this engine now, the new engine in it, and the red pipe, she was given at its worst 7.2 horsepower at its worst with the red pipe on. At its best 8.054 brake horsepower out of a 58cc Chinese chainsaw. Okay, so, and they were both taken, both those readings, so its best torque output, its best power output if you like, is at 11,520, because they're identical, those are, which is really high. That's high, that is. And again, I might have issues with the chains, but I thought about this. So what I might do I might put an adapter in that pipe so that it shrinks the size of that outlet. So I could do that if I wanted to slow it down, which will make it more usable, because ultimately I want to be able to use these saws. Like, I don't want it to rip chains up all the time. So I might put an adapter inside that. Or what I could do is turn up the fueling on the high jet slightly. If I turn up the fueling on the high jet slightly, it won't rev to that higher range, but it will help protect the engine better, because you've got more fuel going through it, therefore more oil. Okay, so the best with that pipe, 8.054, the worst 7.2 horsepower. Okay, that's awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, still MS 500i pushes 6.8 horsepower. So now this, technically, this is more powerful than a 500i. 500i is obviously the most powerful production saw produced in standard form. Okay, and this is a cheapy Chinese 58cc. The 500i is something like 85cc, I think. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure, but I know it's a lot bigger than this. And it's got fuel injection on it as well, the 500i, and they pushes 6.8 in standard production form. But this modified Chinese is pushed up to 8.054 brake horsepower, and at the worst it's 7.2. So it's gonna burn off a 500i. This is, you know. So I've achieved what I wanted to do, you know. This is what it's about for me. It's about making an awesome cutting chainsaw. I'll keep working at it. I'll keep doing stuff. Keep putting in what works. And yeah, good fun, to be fair. And so remember, that is with the red expansion chamber, if you like. I'll call it an expansion chamber. Yes, I know it isn't really an expansion chamber, but it works on the same principle. Okay, so now with the standard pipe, we've got an average. So at its worst it was 3.8 horsepower. Now on average it was pushing 5.7 horsepower, and I've logged that a couple of times, 5.7 horsepower. So to me, there's a big difference between that red muffler and the standard muffler. A big difference. Therefore, my argument is that works. Okay, now there's an anomaly. Okay, I'm not drunk. I could do with another one actually, but there you go. So okay, now because I've logged RPMs and torque, you'll see that because there's an anomaly on here. So the 5.7 horsepower was achieved at 10,200 and at 8,640, so it's got a good range, if you like. Whereas the red one only pushes its best power at 11,520. Now it might push 5.7 or whatever lower down like this one, but as you go up higher, it pushes more up to 8.05, and that's why I think that outlet needs shrinking. Because if you think about it, you're passing more gas at a higher range, so it's starting to build up more pressure inside that pipe, and I think that's what it needs. It needs a bit more back pressure in there, and then I should get that extra power lower down. So that's what I think. Okay, but there's an anomaly with the standard muffler. Okay, so for a very split second, now when I'm scrolling through, it is a split second. Okay, so which means I've hit it on full revs, brought it down with the load, and at some point from it going from full revs to being dragged down, at some point, which is very low down, I have to say, so at 9,000 RPM, it pulled 5.036 pounds-feet, okay, which is really a lot, because it's averaging at around 3, this. But just at one point, at a very split second, it pushed 5.036 pounds-feet. Now, when I measure that and do the calculation, because it is quite high, that torque, it's actually showing 8.6 horsepower, but it is a split second. The main readings I've got are coming out in the 5s, and the best reading is really 5.7. okay, I mean, it might have, if I'd have done the same thing, it could have even, for a split second, it could have produced more even with that one as well. So it's a bit hit and miss, this. And like I say, because all I do, I can flick back through frames and I just note down what I see. But you can only note so many down. But if I got this rigged up to a laptop with a graph, you probably would see it, and you probably find that this silencer, the standard one, is probably quite good at lower RPMs, high power, but then fades off at the higher RPMs, starts fading off. But that one there is, I mean, okay, here's a point. At 8,760 RPM, which is lower than this one pushed, it pushed 5.827 horsepower. Okay, not as high as the other one, but that power is still there at that low down. Because I mean, 5.872 horsepower ain't bad, to be honest with you, anyway, especially at that low RPM. So the crux of it is that expansion chamber definitely does work. It definitely gives more average brake horsepower. So, you know, if you want to build one, if you look back, I think a couple of videos back, I can't remember, see, because this one could be a while before it goes out, I don't know. I save them up sometimes and then I put them out. But it does actually say it's titled building something like building a short expansion chamber or something, how to build one. So luckily it's doing what I wanted it to do and what I thought it would do. It doesn't always work out like that, like I say, with the cranks twisting, but this time it has. Yeah, so that's a good pipe, that is. But, and like I say, what I might do, I'll put a reducer inside that outlet, and I don't know, I might put a screw in it just to hold it in to start with, a stubby screw, so I can remove it if I want to. You know, just drill it and put a little short screw in it. See how it goes. Do another dyno run with it, see if it actually does do anything, because I've got my readings here. So I hope you find this interesting. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. I love doing this stuff. It's good. So once again, from Lutys Chainsaw Mods, I might go and sit outside in the sun now for a little bit. I feel a bit happier about getting this running properly and running dyno tests on it now, so I'll probably go outside, sit outside. So thanks once again for supporting me on this channel. Please like, subscribe, It just, I'll do this anyway, to be fair, you know. I mean, I did it for a long time where people didn't seem to be that interested in this stuff, but as soon as the dyno came on the scene, people started enjoying it. So yeah, I might give it another fire up for you if you like, just to keep everyone interested. Just do a quick run on it. Thank you once again for watching Lutys Chainsaw Mods. Please come back. Please visit me once more. Makes it worthwhile if I can see people appreciate what I'm doing. So thanks for now, and bye for now.